Good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Dear faculty and staff, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this fifth and last in the series of 5 Creative Spark webinars. We're very pleased and grateful here at ChangeSchool to be delivering the 5 webinars to you over what was April and is now May for the last one. Particularly, as always, want to mention Hande and Richard from the British Council, as well as your British Council representatives and your university country hosts, without whose efforts this would not be happening. We've got a lot of people registered from all 5 countries, so welcome to everybody. Some, I believe, are together in a boardroom, and others have logged in individually. As we go through, if you haven't been on a Zoom webinar before, you may have questions that you want to ask. If you move your mouse, if you wiggle your mouse, then if you're on a Mac, I believe at the top of the screen, if you're on a PC at the bottom of the screen, you will see a Q&A icon. I think if you're on a phone, you just tap the screen. Type your questions there, and at the end, we'll do our best to answer them in the time that we have. You'll also, in more or less the same place, see a chat window. We're going to use that. We're going to use that a lot as our host wants to make this as interactive as possible. So, let me now introduce you to our webinar host today, Viren Lall. Viren is Managing Director of ChangeSchool. He is an entrepreneur and corporate transformation leader with 24 years of experience in multinationals such as British Telecom, Adobe Systems, Dell Corporation, and Unido, as well as working with UBS, Vodafone, and Lloyds of London as clients. Welcome, Viren.
Hi, Neil. Thanks.
So, Viren, I believe you've just come back, in fact, from one of the Creative Spark countries, only about 10 days ago. How was it?
It was fantastic. I was in Uzbekistan. I was in Tashkent, and it was great to see a transformation of the teams out there. Hear the pitches from the participants who got their ideas. And it was good to see how some of those entrepreneurs were actually sort of influencing the crowd to get them to like their ideas and the business venture.
Fantastic, good stuff. So you've had a great experience directly of the program we're working on, as we know, both there and in Azerbaijan. So I'm going to get out of the way, Viren, and I'm going to let you crack on. So here we go, everybody.
Thank you, Neil. So, ladies and gentlemen, this webinar is on influence, personal brand, and marketing, and is really in the context of why this might be important to entrepreneurs, and it's equally important to us as individuals. So let's just go through this process. A quick poll for the people who are already out there. So participants, if we have interacted before, or you've been in a webinar with me before, or we've been connected otherwise, just say hello on the chat window. I just want to get a feel for people, whether we are connected or not. So just let me know.
So quick hello, ladies and gentlemen. So let's see, let's go on the chat window. Let's start there. So I'm also looking at the chat window right now, so I'm going to say hello because I know you quite well. So there we go. That'd be me.
Yeah, good.
Right, so that's me because I know you quite well. What about everybody else? Have you maybe just say hi if you've seen Viren before, or hello. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Arisiak. My pronunciation.
Say hello on the chat window if you've interacted before, or raise your hand. You have this hand raising icon. Raise your hand if we are meeting for the first time.
Right. Oh, now they have to go and find the hand raising icon. Oh, someone's found it. Well done, Emma. Emma's found the hand raising icon. Brilliant. Well done, that woman. Fantastic. So we got some. Oh. Christina, right. So you've got a problem with voice, as in you can't hear us? I don't know. If you can't, then we're going to struggle. So, you won't, unless I invite you in, which I could, if we fancied to, Christina, but because it's a webinar, you won't be able to talk on the webinar unless I say you can. I'm master of the universe at this point. You can only hear me. Okay, that's interesting. Viren, I can hear you. Does anybody else have that problem? Because I can hear Viren as well. Viren, say something for me.
I'm just testing. Hello.
Right. Arisia can hear both of us. So, Christina, I don't know what's happening there.
Just 1 second, guys. Let me just see. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you perfectly well, Viren, either way. And in fact, I think the first one was better.
Okay, just raise your hand if you can hear me, so that Neil get an idea.
Viren, the first microphone setting you had was better if you changed something.
Yeah, I have changed it back.
Okay, right. Mariam can hear us both, so I'm afraid, I think, Christina, that's a problem your end. Now, someone else, Aravic just put the hand up. There it is again. It's like this. It's like this. Right. Okay. I think we've more or less got there, Viren. So we've got people on the chat window. We've got people raising their hands, and we've established that people can hear us. So we're away. Still only me, Christina. That's very strange.
Well, I'm not speaking, so I don't know if you can hear me now.
Mm-hmm. Right, Christina. I'm going to take this offline with you.
Anyway, Neil, I will make it start.
I will deal with this. You crack on, Viren.
Yeah. So dear staff, the reason we're leading the session today is that we've delivered programs of influence about 15 countries. That includes Japan and 6 GCC countries, which is Oman, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Bahrain. We practice influence, and we sort of help both executives and entrepreneurs in it. And even as an organization, we aim to sort of influence. Our influence has grown over the years. So these are the countries that we are actually active in at the moment in our education programs out there. But the main thing I wanted to bring all of us over here today is, why is this important for us who want to mentor entrepreneurs in the future or become entrepreneurs in the future? Why is influence such an important topic? Now, you may have been through these programs that we've run previously. If you recall, an entrepreneur builds their capability literally from nothing to something big using this technique called effectuation, which is a virtuous circle of building their social capital, their knowledge base, which I call intellectual capital, and their ability to get things done and take action, which is the human capital. And each of these is built in turn, which reinforces and adds more capability. And all of this requires you to go and influence either people to come and work with you in your teams, or customers to come and buy products from people who have not dealt with you before, or get people to share their expertise with you. Influence becomes a very important part, and I wanted to situate it in the context of the effectuation model that you had been exposed to. So let's have a very quick discussion out here, right? How do we get someone to cooperate with us or trust us? Yeah, and this would be with people over whom we have no direct authority. So again, as Neil said, come onto the chat window and do share your ideas on how can we persuade people to do things for us, cooperate with us, get involved in our projects, but we are not their boss.
Brilliant. What do you think, guys? Now, I'm looking at you because I know that we've done some work on this. The Armenians and Georgians on the call. So let's see what you...
Excellent. Meeting face to face, yeah.
Yeah. Smile. Brilliant.
Smile. Excellent.
Brilliant, Eric.
Excellent.
Brilliant. Why is smiling so good? Mm-hmm. How else could you get someone to cooperate with you? Sending intro videos. Yes. Look at me. I'm lovely.
Fantastic. Intro videos for pitching. Yes. Yes. There are going to be a lot of those for the pitching competition. Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Oh. What do you mean by that? So,
I'd love to know more about this. Yes, you'll find out, please.
What do you mean by the preliminary statistical data? Do you mean the information about the person you're talking to? What do you mean? About the auditorium, so the audience, I guess, is what you're thinking about. Listen and speak. Oh, nice one, Marion.
Oh, fantastic. I love this one. Find friends who know them. Networking. Listen and speak.
Features of customers. Yeah. Okay. So again, this is getting to know them. Yeah, doing your homework before any network meeting. Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, some interesting stuff, Viren.
Yes, this is really cool, right? Because Christina says do their homework, which means find out a little more about their world. It means features of customers, gather some information before. I love the other one, which is about active listening, is, understand their space before speaking. So these are all techniques of getting a little more in their world, moving away from yours. But the other techniques about smiling, sending introduction videos was also about persuading them in the moment. So all valid techniques, and we will cover all of them. So thank you for that. Let's look at how we are able to persuade people. So let's just do a couple of very quick exercises. This webinar, what we're going to do is we're going to put it in 3 parts. To learn how to influence and to be able to build a brand, we need to look at it in 3 ways. First is, what is our understanding about influence? What do we believe out there? And is there science? Is there something out there that tells us something different? So this is the knowledge about influence. The second thing is, what actions can we take? What rightful actions can we take in integrity that will allow us to influence not just for today, but also the future? And the third concept I talk about is strategies. And it's, people ask me, what does a strategy mean? A strategy really is a consistent way of organizing your resources to produce consistent results. So it's not ad hoc, it's doing things in a matter of a habit to get the results that you want. And that's the last bit. So we'll divide the webinar into these 3 sections. And this is based on years of practice and research that we've done. And the model is called virtuous reciprocity. It is virtuous action and virtuous capability. But let's first get to the bottom of that. First, what does science tell us about human nature and persuasion? What actions can we lead for better influencing? And what develops us, finally, as a brand? So here's a model you can work with. Virtuous influence, virtuous reciprocity, and virtuous capability. Let's pick each of these up in turn. Let's start with the first one, which is virtuous influence. How many of you know this gentleman sitting out there? Not the one who's standing, that is me, but the person who's sitting out there. Any idea who this person is?
Anyone? Anyone seen that guy? Anyone recognize him?
Okay.
Fair,
he was in London a couple of years ago. He is known as the father of influence. In fact, some of the case studies we would have done is based on him. His name is Robert Cialdini. He's a researcher, and he wrote a very famous book almost about 25 years ago, and it's still very popular. It was The Psychology of Persuasion, and he followed that up with a book much more recently, which was called Persuasion. So we've done some of his principles before, and it's a good idea to sort of get a hand and feel out there. So let's start with this first activity. And my question is, why does this influence you? People give gifts. You invite someone for a meal. Someone invites you for a meal or coffee. And we have a tendency to repay givers. Why does that influence us? What principle might be in play?
What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Now let's reach back into your memories, because we have done this. Again, Armenians and Georgians.
Yeah, it's a quick recap. We have done some of this. In Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, we've done this.
What was it called? Ooh, I can hear the cogs going around.
Yeah. There's a term. There's a term for this persuasion or influencing technique. What is it? Yeah.
You remember?
Anybody remember? Okay, so we'll give you a head start. The first stamp out there, it's called reciprocity. Works very powerfully. It is about human psychology. Yes, yeah, you're totally right. It is about human psychology.
You feel as if you're having something very good, Marion.
You know something. Excellent. And you know what? It's not just limited to us adults. No, babies do it. You give baby something, they want to come and give something back to you. It's very, very primal. Not only that, research has shown that It's even in primates. It's even in primates. There's this need of reciprocating. If someone's done you a favor, you want to give something back. And there's a lot of stuff on YouTube around this, but the technique is reciprocity. Let's look at another technique out there. So this is, if you haven't had the opportunity watching a movie or a TV series back, this is George Clooney. And he's having an espresso shot out there. That's the machine. Why would you be persuaded by this poster out there to probably go and buy some coffee or a machine? Why?
Right, hold on. So George Clooney, yeah. What is it about a photograph of George Clooney and a cup of coffee that might persuade you of something?
I think we saw it in the chat window before. Somebody had mentioned.
Here we go.
Yeah. Oh, he's simply adorable.
There we go.
Celebrity power.
There we go.
There
Celebrity power. Right, but brilliant, right? So that's fantastic. As simple as that. He's a very good-looking boy. Fantastic.
Percentage cream. Right. It is likability. Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Mariam. Right. It is likability. And this is where celebrity endorsement comes in. Now, here is a fact. George Clooney does not drink coffee. His stomach cannot tolerate caffeine. He doesn't drink coffee. He drinks other stuff. He doesn't drink coffee. Yet he advertises it, and yet we go and buy it. Now, another reason why this is important, Nespresso is a huge company today, probably Nestle's biggest business unit. It produces 13 billion capsules, Nespresso pods a year. It's a hugely successful enterprise, and this is our opportunity to see how big companies influence us in very, very subtle ways. Okay, so we move on to another one, which you may have encountered. Would you trust this man to treat you? Oh no, Neil, this is George Clooney again, isn't it? From the series ER. No, not this man. You already like him too much. How about this man? Would you trust this man to treat you for an illness you may have?
So take a breath. Not George Clooney anymore, right? Would you trust this guy? Why not?
Good. So the question is, Christina, what makes him credible?
Maybe,
what makes him credible? Smile is positive, makes him credible. Yeah, right.
When we smile positive, okay.
Yeah, good.
Arisiak, maybe.
Looks more professional, okay. And you go into his office, and this is what you find. You also not only find that he is, coming across as someone trustworthy, but he's also got the credentials out there. Yeah. Yeah, certificate out there. Yeah. We would, because he's in uniform, he's got the persona, he looks like he's trustworthy, and he's got the credibility, and it's called credibility and authority. And I think this is again something that you might have done in some of the sessions before. And the last one, I got this from a colleague who shared this a few days ago. I said, there's a lovely webinar out there, and he sent me this link. And you know what happened? It immediately pushed me to go and watch the recording. The question is, why? Any idea? There's a share on WhatsApp. Yes, Miriam, 4 days left. What does that mean?
There she is. Hello, Miriam. There she is. 4 days left. So there you go. Miriam's got it. 4 days left.
Yeah. Modern. So yes, the content is compelling, but might I have acted differently if there wasn't this message, link expires in 4 days?
I think so.
You think so, right? And the reason is when they say link is expiring, I spring into action. And we see this quite often. You go to book a flight, you can do it on any of your airlines, and moment you see only 2 seats left, you no longer think about, I'll go and book it tomorrow. You book it then and there. It's a principle. It's called scarcity. So ladies and gentlemen, what we've done now is that we have quickly done a recap. This is something you've done before, and maybe this is just a reminder or refresh for you. there are 6 principles of persuasion used commonly, and we've covered 4 by some very, very simple exercises of reciprocity in terms of sort of inviting people out for drinks, giving gifts, likability, people who's, you know, and smiling was a part of it, celebrity power is another part of it, authority, the way people dress, you know, gives them credibility, their degrees, their certificates, and things that we're going to run out of time from. The scarcity principle is a really interesting one, and it's based on Nobel Prize research by Daniel Kahneman, and he showed through a number of experiments, statistically sound experiments, that human beings hate losing freedom, hate losing things twice as much as gaining something. You get the happiness that you get by gaining maybe the equivalent of 50 pounds is not the same as the loss you would feel if you lost 50 pounds. The loss is much, much greater as a feeling, and that led to a Nobel Prize by prospect theory. 2 more principles, consistency and social proof. So you've seen this before, we'll do this very quickly. Reciprocity is repayment in kind. And don't worry about the slides, because this recording and the materials will be up once all these webinars are finished on our learning environment, and you'll have access to them. Likability, we prefer to say yes to someone we know, whether it was Diana when she was alive, and Mother Teresa, and a host of other sort of celebrities that touch us today. Authority, we have deep-seated sense of duty to people who dress credibly, who show their certifications to us, and there are examples. People will do extreme things when they meet people with authority, even if they're not connected with them. There are Milgram experiment. You can Google that and see that on YouTube. And there was a movie made, the Stanford Prison Experiment, very, very recently. We have, sorry, my ticker seems to be moving rather without my control. So I'm just going to get this out of the way. Scarcity is the one where opportunities seem to be more valuable when their availability is limited, and this is why we go on the last day of sales, because we know when the sales are over, the deal is going to be completely missing out there. 2 more, which we hadn't done examples of. Sorry, but I just checking why this is running on its own. Consistency is a principle which salespeople use. They first find out what your need is, and then they come into a solution. So human beings find it difficult to hold 2 conflicting thoughts and have a need to fill in voids or examples. And consistency is also a leadership technique. Leaders find, we find leaders, we need leaders to be consistent. In fact, when we see our future leaders keep changing their opinion, we don't think of them as good leaders. So consistency is also seen as a leadership trait. And the last one is social proof. And this is one means to determine what is correct, is that we trust a whole number of other people and their decisions. And I just did this very quick one before coming out of this webinar. I went and looked up this hotel in Uzbekistan, and you can immediately see it's got excellent ratings, 8.3. And it's in very high demand. It was booked 25 times in the last 24 hours. So again, it persuades us. We say 600 people or 550 people can't be wrong. This hotel must be really worth it. And it's got 5 stars and like buttons out there. So that's how we make our choices. We make our choices based on these 6 principles. This was just a refresh out there. So let's move on to this concept. We've used the words interchangeably, persuasion and influencing. I want to test with you, and let's come back onto the chat window. Are influencing and persuading the same thing or different things?
Oh, that's interesting. Influencing and persuading, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Arishak. Differences, Christina. Aha, straight away we've got a difference of opinion going on here.
Well, you know what the next question is. So if you think they're different, the question is, what is the difference?
Well, if you think they're the same, you're going to have to justify that as well. So what do you reckon? I've got an opinion, but I'm going to keep it to myself for the moment.
I think it's because you probably may know something about this, Neil.
This is interesting. You can have influence, bad or good, says Orisiak, yes, distinguishing from each other. Influencing does not always come in the form of persuasion.
Brilliant, Christina, absolutely right. Influence does not come always in the form of persuasion. So, Aravik, I'd love to know, guiding to the result. Guiding to the result, is it influencing or is it persuasion?
It could also be coercion. Fantastic.
Coercion, so wonderful. So is coercion related to persuasion or influencing? Persuading or influencing? Persuade, believe, influence, action. So lots of subtleties out here. So let's bring this to life. Persuasion really is the more pushy variety. It's presenting a case in a way to sway the opinion of others. So when we see George Clooney with coffee, it's persuading us in very, very subtle ways that we are unaware of, right? And sometimes we are persuaded by people who come and say, hey, come and join this particular group or whatever. We've got thousands of people voting for it, and they might just use this as a persuasion technique. You may not earn their sincere buy-in. Influence is a little larger. Influence is about motivating people. It's about hearts and minds. It's not just tactics. It's bigger than that. It's about getting into their world. So you win someone's heart or earn a mind share as a prerequisite. And great leaders are very, very good at influencing. So just think about influencing as the broader topic, and persuasion in relation to the techniques that I just discussed. So we just got something over here for influencing. You cannot be interested in persuasion. This is a really good point. Please understand the techniques of persuasion are deeply embedded in human psychology. We are persuaded every day, 100 times a day. The world of advertising is about persuasion. The idea of making you aware about it is so that you can take conscious decisions and say, I don't want to be persuaded by this, or I want to persuade, but I want to do it with integrity. And that's how you work through it. Influencing is the larger part of leadership. And I think it's really, really important that you're aware what the distinction is out there. So we got the first part, and that is the reason why I use the word virtuous influence. You're welcome to use these techniques, but do it with integrity. Don't do it to fool people, do it with integrity. So these are techniques that are embedded in our psychology, and that is my advice to you. You know, use them, but use them in a righteous manner. Don't use them in an unethical manner. Now, going on to the second part out there is what actions can lead us to better influencing. I call this virtuous reciprocity, and we will start with this as a scenario. Yeah. So here is a scenario out here. As an entrepreneur, you lead a small project management consulting company. You've done a couple of projects. You're new. You're relatively unknown. Only your customers know you. You're at a conference, at a business transformation big project conference, and you've been given a 7-minute slot to showcase your organization's capabilities. Now, it's not about showcasing your organization's capability. You're given this slot, and you want to influence this crowd towards your company's capabilities. Now, the audience hasn't heard of you or your organization. They don't know who's going to come up on stage, but you've got 7 minutes. You're up next now. You need to introduce yourself. My question to you is, how would you structure your talk so that you leave your audience with a favorable image of you and your brand for the future? You got 7 minutes. It's a conference. You have a company with the potential of creating future customers, and you're out there. Take a minute and think about how might you structure your talk, so a 7-minute talk, to make them dispose more favorably towards you so that they might become your customers in the future.
So it's a classic, okay? So imagine you could be as an academic, you could be at a conference, as a leader of a business or a small business, some of your students, they might be getting up there to very simply just talk about their organization in the hope that someone comes and is interested in them. So it's a very familiar scenario, this. So what do you think? You're leading a small consultancy. You've got this audience in front of you. Give me some ideas. Use the chat window, guys. What do you think? What do you think? Right, here we go. We've started. Christina, what we're doing, how and why we're better and trustable. Different one. Arisiak saying start presenting themselves. Right, Christine's away. Start out with the change our success has brought to the wider community. Position the brand of the company in this context, starting with results. Name, brand, the solution that we've brought to the clients in the world. And organize that. Whoa, lots of stuff. So there's whoa, where do we go? Start. So one thing is about
wow. Fantastic.
One is about what they're doing. One is about the results that they brought in. So there's three different approaches there: the personal, the actions, what people do, and then the results they brought in. What do you think, Viren? Any thoughts on that?
I think it's great, and I think most of us would default to one of these comments. Yeah, I love the fact to start with a joke, get them interested. So if they've heard a boring presentation before, they're more tuned towards you. And obviously, we've got a lot of things we can talk about: facts, figures, statistics, who the members on a board, why we're such a great company, what the customers love us for, and the impact of the solution provided. Now, okay, so let's look at that. Let's move on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for participating and using this as an opportunity to influence, moving into potential change. What is it more out of they get if they engage with us? Okay, so bear with me for a couple of minutes. Let's bounce some of these options out. Yeah, bear with me a couple of minutes. I'll bounce some of these options out. If you've noticed, if you've noticed, and I'm just sort of predicting this, we had this opportunity to present, and people start selling immediately. They say, "Hey, I'm a project management company. You must buy from us. This is an introduction to our service. Here are facts and figures. This is our board members, and we provide services in small project management, medium project management, risk management, and program management." Yeah. Do we all agree? Yeah, I think some of the things in the chat window have been around. Tell us, telling them about what you do. And
let's be honest, Viren, we've all been there, right? We've all been at that presentation where someone's got up and just tells us. In fact, you and I were at a presentation yesterday when someone did exactly that, I believe. Cambridge?
Yes, Cambridge assessment basically started saying this is what we do.
Yeah, very normal.
Yeah. So let's see if there is a better way to influence this particular thing. Yeah. I'm putting this forward and I'm saying your talk should have no sales. And the reason is this is not a pitch competition. The people have not come there to listen to a sales pitch. They come for a conference to gain knowledge in business transformation. You had this opportunity and you said, "Hey, I have 7 minutes, let me start selling." And when I say stock should have no sales, you should use this opportunity to demonstrate that you are a person of value. So you could do something like, let me tell you the top 3 reasons why big projects fail, right? The reasons are it is a result of bad planning. The reasons are people are not sure of what benefits they are going to receive. And the reason is planning fallacy. People make wrong assumptions about planning. We have seen this happen 75% times of all the projects in the world. By the way, in our country, it's even worse. Look at this example, this example, this example. And let me tell you what might be ways to fix this. What you need to do is have systems in place, processes, and you should have this collaboration out there. Now, you spent 5 or 6 minutes. You've been, "Hi, Annie." You've been talking to them. What you've done is you have delivered value. You have delivered what I talk about is become a person of value delivery first, build credibility. Get them, enter their hearts and minds first as someone who's credible, who has something valuable to share. And once you've done that and you've got their buy-in and their sincere buy-in, then and only then you can introduce yourself and say, the last stage, and you say, by the way, I work for a company or I run a company that does these kind of services, and we've had 3 or 4 customers where we've saved them a lot of money by doing these services. And should you be interested in future of running a project and improving the chances of success, don't hesitate to get back in touch and contact us. My visiting cards are lined at the back of the thing, and I'll also be available at lunch if you want to talk to you. You have respected their time. You've given them value. You have created value before trying to capture value. Yeah. So if you have thoughts about this approach, do share it on the chat window. But I just wanted to share it on alternative way, which is about virtuous influencing. Get into their world first. Project your value as an individual so that they find you credible. Yeah. Any thoughts?
What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah.
Agreed, Cesaric, thank you.
That's a start. That's a start. Even if one person agrees, try it out. Try it out as a technique. If you ever get this chance, try it out as a technique of delivering value before capturing value. And I assure you, you will find different and better results as a result of it. Yeah. So virtuous reciprocity, and this is what I talk about in terms of, we talked about reciprocal things of coffee and gifts and all that sort of stuff. Think of this in a much bigger context in the future. It's there on the slides. Think of people and your customers as collaborators for the future. If I only say one thing, what I want to say is view your current action as springboards for greater results and greater reputation. So every action you do today is not about transacting right now. It is about greater results and greater reputation for the future. So it's not transactional. We call this virtual reciprocity. And it is about getting into the customers, or not customers, but getting into whoever you're serving into their world. Now, what does this getting into their world mean out there? Right? So let's look at this as a diagram. This is your world. This is what you do. Yeah, it's your here, where you are right now, and you have your own position, facts, and interests. And we had, I think it was Miriam or Christina talked about positions earlier on the chat window, and this is their world. Yeah, it's there, and they have their position, facts, and interests. And your job as a part of virtuous reciprocity is to walk in their shoes. Julie Birkinshaw did a webinar for us not too long ago, last year. It's a very famous statement. He says, to get to know a man, you must walk in his shoes for a mile. And this part of the webinar is really focused on how do you get into other people's world to understand better their particular needs. Let's have a go at it. I'm going to give a very simple exercise, and this will be followed by a poll. And it's called tappers versus listeners. Now, here's how it goes. There's a world famous song. Literally in this audience, I guarantee 100% of you have heard this song. And not just now, you've heard this song for pretty much throughout your life, right? It's a world famous song. And here's an exercise, okay? Here's an exercise. You are invited to go into a classroom. You're invited to go into a classroom, and you want to introduce this song. You're not allowed to sing this song, but you can take a pen or a marker pen or any pen, and you can drum the beat on the table. So you can play the beat, not the tune. You can play the beat on the table. And the question that we're going to ask you is, how many people do you think will guess this song? Think about it. It's a song I guarantee 99 to 100% of the people know or have heard. Yeah. Neil, would you like to bring up a poll?
I'm going to bring up a poll, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to give you 5 different options. Have a look at your screens now, and you will see. Do you think less than 20% will be able to understand and guess the song that you are tapping out? Do you think 20 to 39, 40, and so on and so forth? Oh, we're away. We've got some thoughts in. We've got some runners and riders. Now, you can't see this, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think Viren can either. Only I can.
I can't. Sorry.
So it's very interesting because there's some interesting results coming out. How many people would guess the song that you tapped in that circumstance? Have a guess, ladies. If you're not quite sure, have a guess. Just click the thing. Give it a go. We've got about half the people have answered so far. I'm just going to give it another 15 seconds, 10 seconds, just to give people an opportunity to try. You only get one answer, just click something, whatever you guess if you're not sure. Take a punt. Give it a go. Take your life in your hands and press that button. 8, 9 people, yeah, getting there. Okay, last 5 seconds. And there you go. So I'm now going to share those results.
Excellent. Less than 20%, 43, 29 to 20, 39, 29, 40 to 60%, 14, 80% or more, 14%. So we can safely turn around and say, you know, I think the average is about 40. Yeah.
Yeah.
So slightly weighted about less than 20 is a higher. 20 to 39 is 29%. So you've already got about 73%. So let's say we will say about 30%. Yeah, 30%. Yeah, is probably the average. Very, very rough calculation out there. Thank you so much. When people are asked, well, how many do you think will guess it? People say 50% of the audience or so will guess the song, and it turns out actually that only one person in a class of 40 guesses the song. And the song that I talk about is Happy Birthday to You. And you can play the drum. It's very easy to play the beat. Happy birthday to you. All of us have heard it. If you didn't hear it as kids, I'm sure we've heard it today growing up in the world. And why does this thing happen? And it happens because the song is playing in our head, right? And we are tapping the beat, and we think other people are going to get it. They don't. All they hear is just ... They hear Morse code. They don't get it at all. And this is something we have to be very conscious of. And there's a lovely article written about it. It's called The Curse of Knowledge. I know you don't know the song, and I'm trying to play it for you, and you don't get it, and I find it very frustrating, right? So when we try and push knowledge without understanding what their needs might be, or without having the tools to do so, we actually hit a roadblock, and that reduces our ability to influence. So what is it that we can do about it? The first thing we need to do about it is go for great outcomes. So when we interact, have these 3 belief sets in your head. Go for great results. Yeah. Go for a great reputation. Yeah. So that the people you serve are the people who are willing to serve you in the future, and go for great relationships. So don't compromise on don't compromise on the fact that if for an immediate return you're going to ruin a relationship. Go for great relationships. So these are the three things you can do in terms of going for great outcomes. But even more importantly, you can only do this if you really understand their space. So that's the other part you need to look into. Go for a great understanding, and there are 3 things out there. The first thing we want to understand is you have to get their context. 70% of people's behaviors or actions or interactions, the way they react, is a result of their environment. It's not their personality, it's not who they are at their core, it's the environment they work in. So find out about their environment, find out about their personal likes and dislikes, their personal preferences out there. And the third thing is understand what makes them successful. Because if you can understand what makes them successful, there's a chance that you can help them succeed. It happened to us. There was a car company that was our client a couple of years ago, and they said, we're not serving our clients well enough. Can you help us? And we showed them certain techniques so that they could really get into their customer space to understand how the customers use their products and services. And that gave them some insights on how to innovate and transform their services. So it's situational awareness, personal awareness, and solution awareness. So let's look at another opportunity to influence. We've done one scenario. Let's look at a second one. I'll read this out. You're a senior academic, so we've got staff out here, and you've mentored a junior colleague from another institution for many years, right? So you're working in your current institution. The relationship has led you to co-write a book together, which is in manuscript form. You've authored and edited 6 books already. So as a senior academic, you're successful. But for the junior person, this is their first book. You're on the road to get this book published as joint authors. Your head of department has launched a new academic center in your university and has agreed to publish your co-authored book as a part of the series from the center. and you are the first in line, and obviously your junior co-author is going to get published. The series publisher, and I take the name Bloomsbury, likes your book and has given it a green signal. So not only has your head of department said you're going to be first of the series, but the publisher has actually said, great book, we're very happy to publish it, it's all looking good. You've done this thing before, here is a situation, right? Yeah, we've done situation out there. Now we know, as we've done some of these exercises, with the situation, sometimes there's a complication. And here is the complication. Ooh, you've just learned that the book is going to be third in line with 2 more edited volumes scheduled before yours. This has been a political decision that has been taken by your head of department. You find out that these 2 edited volumes are not even ready. They want to publish 2 other volumes when that are not ready, and your co-authored book with your junior colleague could be delayed by a year, maybe more, because some books don't get written. Your HOD is your boss and is also responsible for your professional progression in the organization. So they have direct authority over you. On the other hand, the person you've been mentoring, your junior colleague, needs this publication quickly for her tenure application, and she wants out of this arrangement to look for another publisher. How would you approach this issue with your head of department? On the one hand, you've been pushed to number 3, and there are 2 unwritten books before you, which means your published book can be delayed indefinitely. But you already committed. And on the other hand, you've got this junior colleague who needs it for her tenure application. It's a sticky situation. How would you influence yourself out of it? What would you tell your HOD?
This is a hard one though, Viren. You're the meat in the sandwich here. You've got, on the one hand, your HOD, the other hand, the person that's been working with you, the junior colleague. That's a really quite a tough one to get out of. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? There you go. Collaborate with the junior. Interesting, Christina. Now, I wonder how many people have actually been in this situation, seeing as we're talking to academics. Just an interesting thought. Collaborate with the junior, says Christina. What do you reckon, Christine? That's 1. How would you do that? What would you do, Christina? What does that mean, collaborate with the junior? Be interested to find out. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? What would you do? Negotiate with the head department.
Yeah,
okay.
good. Brilliant, Arabic. And then the question is, how?
Ooh, Christina, become a mentor, not a supervisor. That's interesting. It's a very slightly different role. Not a supervisor, a mentor. I'm going to help you through this. Interesting. What else have we got? What do you think? What would you do in that situation?
See, I'm thinking though, if you go to the HOD and say, we're not, we're going to publish elsewhere, HOD may not like that conversation.
No. On the other hand, if you can't get someone with the HOD, then your junior colleague has lost faith in you.
Good. Ararak, you've got it. Find a solution. And maybe I'll tell you this, what could be a potential solution, which will be acceptable to both sides. So shall we take Arabic's point in, Neil, and just give one for it? Excellent. Arabic, thank you for bringing this out. Yeah.
Oh, hello.
This is a real case study. Yeah, there's a real case study. So before I start, I would look at the academic development perspective and benefits for the HOD for someone who would give from the promotion of 2 faculty members at the same time, given that the book is ready. Right?
Oh, nice. Feeding into their interests. Very nice. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That's coming from Christine. Very, very nice.
Yeah, so we can speak to the but remember the junior colleague does not belong to this institute. So HOD may not be that interested.
But to be fair, there was a principle there. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
And explain the issue out there. So let's talk to the HOD and explain the issue. So what the senior academic did, right? So I'll tell you what happened and I'll deconstruct it to you and see it from the science of influence. What the senior academic did is went to the HOD and said, dear HOD, here is the junior colleague, right, who is in this particular situation. And we want to have this chat. I understand you've got 2 other books on the road. As far as I'm concerned, I already have 6 books. I'm not in any hurry. I understand there may be delay. I got 6 books. I'm already senior. It doesn't matter if it's pushed out. But we have this junior colleague out here, and this tenure application depends on it. What would your advice be to her? And turns out the HOD turned around and said, I would then advise her to look for another publisher. And then the senior academic continues the conversation. I think that is absolutely great advice. Now, given that Bloomsbury has already approved the book and they've already reviewed the manuscript, would it be okay if she can talk to Bloomsbury and publish it with them, but outside of these series? It turns out the HOD turned around and said, no, I'd have absolutely no problem with it. And, and it turned out good for everybody. And this is a real life situation. So what's happening here is the senior academic actually put the head of department in the junior academic shoes. And this is what I mean by getting people to experience somebody else's world. So the head of department experienced the world of the junior academic from another institution. And the moment she experienced the world, she acted from a very different place and said, no, my advice to her would be to go and find another publisher. And once that was taken, then the fact that she could publish with the same publisher but under different series turned out to be a fantastic outcome for all. So this is a difficult one, but this is again an example of how you can influence by getting people to step into other people's shoes. It's not just yourself sometimes. Sometimes you need to get someone else to step into, a person B to step into person C's shoes to get them to see each other's worlds. Yeah. So, but thank you so much for participating on this. We'll do a few minutes on the last one, which is a virtuous capability. How do we develop ourselves as a brand? Okay. So, when we are asked what's the most important thing to build your personal brand today, very quick, 30 seconds on the chat window, tell me what might those techniques be to build your brand? I'm timing this.
Interesting. Again, so remembering, going back to the effectuation piece, an entrepreneur starts with themselves. So what would you do straight away? You're on your own, you've had an idea. Ooh,
networking, fantastic.
Networking. LLL?
LinkedIn? No, LLL?
Help me, Christina. LL, we did say 30 seconds, she's shorthand.
Right.
Something, and networking. It'd be interesting to see what it is. Yep, networking, that's one thing. Lifelong learning, brilliant, thank you. Okay.
Authorities and ranking, excellent.
Yeah, really important. Authorities and ranking. Yeah, other people help saying this person's a good person, I like it. Finding my niche, so focusing where you build your brand, that's interesting.
All things good. Now, if we continue this for longer, lots of people will turn around and say, social media, et cetera, out there. The first thing to remember is that the invention of a microphone, right, did not make a bad singer good. Okay, so the first message is just because you have media and the tools, it does not mean that you're able to develop a brand. The first important takeaway out here is you've got to have something credible to say, something meaningful to say before you use channels and tools to express them. Okay, so I put it this way: have something credible to say with a profile that reinforces and services that back up your promise. And I'll share with you a very, very simple model to do it. And I call it the 7 Ps. And why I call it the 7 Ps is different from the marketing Ps you may have heard of before. It just makes it really easy to remember. Think of it as 2 parts. There's the persona and there's the promise. The persona has 3 things: your profile, your pitch, and what you publish. And your promise is really your products and services and the partnerships you do. So if you're an entrepreneur, your products and services. If you're faculty and academics, your products and services would be your publications, would be the articles you're writing. Yeah. And the whole circle works like this. Your persona delivers your brand promise, and by delivering your products and services, it builds your personal brand. So this is a virtuous capability model, 7P model that I call it. There are 3 ways you can describe yourself in the workplace, and this was done, again, Julian Birkinshaw shared this. We can either introduce ourselves by a job title. I'm the Deputy Dean of XYZ, I'm the Vice Director of this, or I'm the Head of Department. You can do it by your qualifications. I have the following degrees and certifications. And a third, which is an intuitively a more powerful way of doing it, is by describing people what you do rather than what your qualifications are or what your position are. It's about what you do. Now, again, this is a recap, and I know quite a few have been through it. When we talk about what we do, we'd had this session from Simon Sinek. If you haven't, Google it. It's about starting with why. It's always more important to share your purpose, and that's a very powerful influencing technique as a part of a habit. Why you do what you do, what's the purpose is really, really important. Then how do you do what you do? And then it is, what do you do? So you may have heard this talk before. If you haven't, take a chance to do it. But I want to share some examples with you. Quite a few may have come on the webinar previous with Sandeep Daya. And this is what his profile looks like. So he talked about basics of entrepreneurial accounting. And this is his LinkedIn profile. And I'm sharing this as an example very specifically because it's written in a particular way. His profile is very powerful because it talks about why. And he says, I believe the individuals who understand the tools and language of finance can make a profound positive difference in their professional and personal lives by making better choices and acting on them. I strive to make financial concepts easy to understand and apply those who are interested in this field. And then he talks about how does he do it in 3 particular ways. So here's a great example. And here is a framework and a tool that you can use to do it for yourselves to develop your own profile. Yeah, okay. The second thing is the pitch. And I think a lot of you have had experience in it. And here is one way of doing it. Instead of talking about you and your idea, talk about your customers and their need first, and then talk about the solution you're introducing. Again, it starts in their world, not your world. So this is how your pitch should be structured. And the third one really is about your message and how you want to publish it. Not only, it's not just good arguments, facts, and statistics that make a message compelling. Out there, sometimes people find a message is hard to understand. There are some typical barriers. So I'm going to now wrap this up very quickly by showing you what are the typical barriers when you communicate with people, when you write a blog, when you send an email, what could be the barriers and how are ways to overcome them. So the 3 questions that you need to think about your audience is, why should they pay attention? How can they understand the message better? And how do you get them to agree with your message, right? And here are some ways to doing it. Your message should stand out. It should have an opinion. It should be emotive. It should be emotional in some sense. It should be written in a simple manner, not convoluted English or whatever language, simple to understand, and should form a story or a logic. And the last thing is the credibility is your credibility, your source. If it's a source of information, you reference that source. It's supportive and the motives are aligned. So I was in the GCC a little while ago, and VAT was coming in, value-added tax was coming in all 6 countries. So moment somebody said, listen, I can help you. Let me help you understand VAT better. You had people's attention because the context was supportive. Last year in our country, it was GDPR. It was about data protection. If anybody said, I can help you with this, people were supportive. I hope it's not going to happen for Brexit. There's nothing happening out there. But sometimes there's something that's happening in your country, in your context, that has a time window of opportunity where your message will be better received than otherwise. So these are some basic techniques to make your message more powerful. Here is a very nice book, Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath, that might help you get better ideas on how to do your profile. So I've talked about your pitch. I've talked about your publishing. I don't mean articles, I mean the messages that you have in your social media. And I've talked about having a profile that has a purpose, the what and the how, in terms of how you can express yourself. That's your persona, your products and services, or your brand. And what you need to do is make a habit of building this, reflecting on this, delivering your service, and coming back, right? And that is the virtuous capability you need to develop as a model of influence. I'd like to finish with just 2 quotes. Leadership is a process of social influence, not persuasion, but social influence. Thank you for the distinction. It was sent by Julian Berkshire, Deputy Dean, London Business School, in a webinar we ran last year. And diplomacy is the art of letting other people have your way. And this came from the head of Foreign Wealth Office over here in the UK. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, here are some takeaways that you wanted to reflect on and put into action. It's about getting into their world. Thank people, just don't say thank you. Don't say shukran or rahmat, say them what you're thanking them for. Become a person of value first before value exchange. Connect with your audience beforehand if you can, like I attempted to when I started onto this. And obviously put this model into practice. It's all about making this technique a habit. Yeah. It won't be complete before we take an action. So I'm going to give you a choice. Do one thing as a result of this webinar, and I know that you would have improved your influencing capability. So either if you've been to an event, met people, exchanged details, if business cards is out there, but you haven't reached out or followed up, do write back to them and do so in an influential manner. So if they said something valuable to you or something interesting or something that's helped you, do let them know. So that's option number one. Option number two, develop your brand. Find a way to do it. It may or may not be Facebook. I don't know. LinkedIn is a nice way where it expresses your brand in a really powerful way in your summary. I urge you at the end of this webinar, before tomorrow, you have taken action on one of these items. I'm not saying complete them. You may not be able to complete a LinkedIn profile, but you've committed to taking an action on one of these items if you haven't done so in either of this case, as one way moving one step forward in influencing. And with that, Neil, I'm going to sort of hand that back to you now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I would say to everybody as we come to a close here, and we've got a couple of minutes over time, which I apologise for. Write it down now. What are you going to do? Grab a pen, write it down. What are you going to do? Who's the person you're going to write to? Or what post is it you're going to do? On what forum? Take a second. Write it down.
And let me ask you, Neil, why, what's the reason for this process of writing down that you suggest? There must be something.
Nice question, Viren. There's something about, well, there's firstly something very simple and operational. I remember that I have done this. Mm-hmm. And there's also something about commitment.
Ah, right, okay.
So when you're writing something down, you're committing something to yourself. And Christina has now wonderfully committed something to us on chat as well. Preparing application for the video competition with students. Yep. Writing to a person I met recently, Mariam. Yep, task one. Brilliant. Yeah, we're getting them through. People are writing to us. So we've got some commitments coming through here. People are standing up on this webinar and saying, this is what I'm going to do, which is another method of influence, getting people to commit. Brilliant. Viren, thank you very much. I'm going to now bring this to a close.
We are going, by the way, to the big idea pitch competition in London today, aren't we, Neil?
Yes, we are this evening. We are going there this evening. So, thank you very much, Viren, for all the time and effort that you've put into designing and delivering this webinar. It's very full, very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to this webinar and all the webinars that we've had in the series. It's been fantastic. We're very grateful that you've come, and I hope that you've had as fantastic time as we have here.